Hello, everybody, and welcome to Invincible, the review. So today we're going to be talking about Season 2, Episode 4. This is the one where we finally have Mark seeing Omni-Man again. He sees his dad. We got all of that. Before we go into this new episode, though, I do want to quickly clarify some stuff from our previous review, as well as, we got a couple things to address from comments. Number one is I realized after both reading the comments from that last one and thinking over the episode more, I realized the only reason I said it's skippable is because it contained content that I personally cringe at, that I struggle to push through. And there was enough of it that for someone who's very particular like me when it comes to that kind of stuff, the only important things were, hey, he went to a different planet and he saw his dad. That was really kind of what I was going at, because there were some things people were mentioning that I was like, that's a good point. That was something that was needed in this episode. I'm glad that they did do that and such and such and such. But I just wanted to quickly clarify that. Apparently, someone also said my hair looked fantastic in the comments. Thank you. I appreciate it. But Hassan, before we jump in, I know you wanted to quickly address something as well.
There was a comment that passionately said we need a guy like Sal who's read Invincible on this, even though I've clarified through all 3 episodes that I've read all of Invincible. I read it 3 years ago, but I've read all of it, the whole entire thing. Someone said, clearly he only read volume 1 because of what he's referencing. Hey, genius. I'm on the show with a guy who hasn't read any of it. It's important to not color the opinion and lead them in different directions for me to be like, oh, well, you better pay close attention to this innocuous bit of information, because that ruins it. Then Dan is going to be looking for what I'm referencing for the rest of the show, and it might not come for a whole season. It might not come for a whole 4 episodes. So my job as someone who knows all the reveals and knows the story, and no, I don't remember every freaking detail. It was 3 years ago, and it's Invincible. And if you guys have read it, it's a show that it's a comic book that runs far too long and is far too convoluted for its own good. That's my take on it. I still love it, but it runs that long. I need to be able to talk about the episode, say what I like, say what I'm excited about, without telling Dan everything. So person in the comment section who's just been flipping out, writing paragraph, and I responded to the paragraph and they didn't respond to that. But
I always see that. I actually knew which comment you were talking when you started it, that you commented, and then all of a sudden this long change.
This back and forth where he's even, someone was like, Hassan said he's read it. Well, clearly he's only read volume 1 of Invincible because he doesn't know this about this and this is. Dan can't know about that until it happens. It's important that he can then go rewatch episodes and be like, oh my God, they were planting seeds for this and this and this. That's important. It's important as a viewer. I hate half the time I don't do discussion videos with Benny on certain things that I'm really excited about, because Benny gives me leading questions. Like Last of Us, he led me down the rabbit hole that was the entire plot.
Complete agree with you there, because yes, when you are doing a review with someone who has read the content, it is hard, because I'm sure Hassan has reached points where he's like, I want to share this bit of information because this is how I felt when watching it or reading it. But it's like, but if that's how you felt and you tell me that information, I don't get that same experience to have my own feelings over. So I am actually personally very appreciative.
A lot of the emotional beats that you had issue with, I was like, I can't. I'm so excited for you because I was glad you didn't like it. That's the fun part, guys. If they don't like a thing, like if somebody is watching something that you want them to watch and they don't like things prior to reveals, that's great, because then they'll go back and be like, oh my God, the whole time this was about this. And that's exciting when you get to an episode like the one that we're in right now, which was awesome. It was badass, dude.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so today's episode, basically, you can correct me if I miss any of the small bits, but for the most part, it was Mark on this new planet, talking with Omni-Man, finding out kind of what he did. The start of the episode with it's really depressing Omni-Man, on this kind of suicidal path almost. I'm so glad they put that in there, because it was such a contrast to the Omni-Man that we saw, and 2, all the different characters have been painting the image in our heads so far this season. And now we finally see him, and the fact that he was suicidal, standing on the brink of a black hole, which also is just kind of, I kind of chuckled at, where it's like, wow, imagine being that person where you're like, man, instead of jumping off a building, I'm staring into a literal black hole, and oh, they're getting dragged in because they can't stand. Like,
Yeah.
I really appreciated that. It just hammered home. No dialogue was really needed to show you this is where Omni-Man is at. And I loved.
I would have picked a different song. The song didn't hit, but the visuals hit.
Didn't think
it. It didn't hit. Didn't hit for me personally, but the memes from it have been incredible because you have him being like, it's like me when bro it doesn't want to play duos in Fortnite, and it's like flying and sadness and space and sad music. It's great, super funny,
super good. But the main episode, or the main part of the episode, though, Mark has a little brother. Omni-Man basically found his new Earth. We literally just saw season 1 of Invincible get fast forwarded through in about 10 to 15 minutes on this new planet.
Yeah.
What did you think of that? Like,
I love that. That's such a fun concept because it's also like, how do you teach a character like Omni-Man? How do you teach him its lesson, right? He got the first brunt of it with Mark being like, Mark, what will you have in 500 years? I'd have you, Dad. You get that, right? And then that obviously broke something in Omni-Man. He did something no Viltrumite has ever done. He abandons his post. He flies off into space. And in space, he lands on this planet where time is moving so quickly. And to Omni-Man, time's always kind of moving like that, right? Like you live for hundreds of years, you live for thousands of years, whatever. Everyone is so inconsequential and small to you, you know? Like Debbie being a pet makes sense. And these people are a supercharged, jazzed up version of that. I don't know if you realize, but you see his wife in the opening sequence as one of the little kids. But she grows up, and it's not creepy because in this planet, 1 year is a full lifetime. So Omni-Man has managed to invest in these people in a way that he couldn't on Earth because he was burdened by his Viltrumite purpose. But after leaving his Viltrumite post, he's open to it. And then we get this kind of beautiful storyline. Now it's hurtful because we love Debbie and we love Mark and we love Earth, but it's beautiful in the sense of like, bug people, dude. And then God, when he chokes Mark in the middle of their fight to be like, why do I care about these people?
Yeah.
And he's like, it's how you should have felt about Earth, Dad. Oh my God.
Yeah.
The Twitter discourse has been crazy about this. People have hated this episode. Neb, I'm going to pull Neb on the spotlight. Neb retweeted or quote tweeted it or even tweeted it himself. I don't know. One of those things, a comment about people. Can we talk about how Invincible's bad? Can we talk about we don't like this now? And I'm like, Neb, I'm not going to respond to your text. I'm upset at you now because, oh my God, Invincible I love this story.
Wait, why don't people like this?
I don't know.
I can understand if they said it about last episode, but why didn't I like this one?
I actually don't know. I didn't understand the discourse.
This one I felt had more Invincible to it. Like we had the intense, violent battles between actual powerhouses. We had emotional moments.
There was some straight up Naruto level. Like it could have been animated better, but they're not Japanese animators. So for animation, not anime.
Right.
Oh my God, the like Brazilian jiu-jitsu Mark fight, like the way he's moving his hands and like it was swift. If the camera moved more with him, it would have been anime. It would have been beautiful in anime.
But that's just it. I felt like it actually, I think it not moving when Mark did that was purposeful and really pushed forward the point of when Mark tries, he kicks ass. He's because when you think about it, he really is invincible. Just because it was one of those ones where there was also a big key line that happened that I think is going to be a big thing later down the road. And that's when Mark's like, I am trying to fight. And he's like, no, they're going to kill you. If you're not willing to kill them, you're not doing shit, bud. Like, that's basically what he says to him. And that's when it switches. And then he just, with ease, that's why I they didn't do a camera move around. Because he's literally just kind of no effort. And it's just like, okay, this is how strong Mark can be. And this is how strong Mark is going to be because he's going to obviously have to fight more Viltrumites. And I'm just so glad that they did that because I have a feeling we're going to lead towards a direction where Mark does gain the strength to hold his own against Viltrumites. But also, once we get past that, we're going to run into the issue where Mark's going to run into of how do I fight people without always going my all like I was against the Viltrumites, because if I do that against normal people, I rip them in half by mistake. Like, I feel like he's going to run into that position, but I'm glad that he has finally encountered the Viltrumites, that we're finally seeing he's capable of holding his own, but clearly it's going to be close call fights.
I mean, it's capable of holding his own, yes, but capable of beating Viltrumites, no, because they weren't even
not
strong
yet.
Viltrumites. Like, Omni-Man isn't considered the strongest. Like, Nolan isn't the strongest Viltrumite ever. Think about that, dude. We
They
met
haven't-
Krieg
they
at the
haven't
end,
said
voiced by
that,
Tom
though.
Clancy, by the way, or Clancy Brown. Tom Clancy. That's a book, dude. Oh my god,
It's
Clancy Brown, which is incredible voice, Lex Luthor from back in the day, General Wade Eiling in Flash, the TV show, and most recently in Gen V. He's an Amazon boy, apparently. But yeah, so
do they say that he's not? Because I
don't know if they imply it here.
I know he's not the strongest. Like, they
He's
haven't said that,
strong.
but they have made it very clear that he is like a notable. Like,
Yeah,
he is
he's
a
definitely
Viltrumite of note that other Viltrumites know of him. Like,
Yeah.
that's
Which
kind of the vibe I got.
Viltrum isn't a big planet. Like, it's not a lot of people anymore. It's like 50, I think. It's less than that because they killed so many of their own in their war to find the strongest. And if you die, you're not worth being a Viltrumite. Like, this episode's so cool. I think that there might have been a comic book cut, and I'm not 100% sure, but I'm gonna go and say it. I don't think it'll ruin much for you. Mark, I believe in the comics, and I could be wrong because I read this a long time ago, was told by his dad he can get stronger by like destroying his muscles the same way you would in a normal workout, but as like with a guy with superpowers. So he flies around the earth multiple times, whatever, to like burn out his energy and stuff like that to become stronger, and he will become substantially more powerful that way. I thought that was a piece of dialogue. Like, there's a line where he's like, "Let's train." It's not in this. I don't think it's in this episode. I distinctly remember being around here in the comics. I could be wrong. So sorry if I spoiled something for you, but he learns to train.
Based on what you say, it sounds like it was either a passing line last season when he first gets his powers, or I would not be surprised if it's a flashback to him telling him that when he goes back to Earth, and he's probably going to prep for Viltrum.
Yeah, maybe it's like, my dad told me this, whatever. But I remember
because I kind of recall, like, I feel like I remember hearing that or something along those lines, that Viltrumites can get stronger. It's not just, hey, you are strong. It's
some of our chat is saying it was in season 1, but I remember it being like he's having this conversation with Adam Eve, and it's after he comes back to Earth after this adventure. So I could be wrong.
Maybe
maybe I'm wrong. I can go back and reread it, but it's all good. It's inconsequential, but I think Mark is going to get more powerful, and we get to see him. Someone said Classic Saiyan Zenkai Boost. Somebody just compared Omni-Man to Vegeta, and I love it. He is a Vegeta.
I mean, that's basically what he is. He showed up the first time, killed people on Earth, and now he's going to go back.
If not J.K. Simmons, I'd take Christopher Sabat voicing Omni-Man. If not J.K. Simmons, right? That wouldn't be bad.
I'd be okay with that.
Voice cast was phenomenal. This episode has a lot of really cool moments. The smaller moments I really like. Debbie giving up Nolan's money. I love that. Because she's right. She doesn't want to be owned by anybody.
I'm so glad also, though, that she references the book thing, because of the fact that Omni-Man then later references the book as well. Like, both of them are like, this is what it is. Read the books. Read my books. And I was like, oh my gosh, we're going to get one of those things that he planted this long ago to teach him things, which I was kind of hyped for. I love that kind of story.
Read my books, Mark. I love that like inconspicuous piece of dialogue in the Viltrumite's like, what the hell is wrong with this guy? Dude, okay, we're going to jail now. We're going to execute you later. What are you doing? The Viltrumites are clearly the Saiyans, right? Like, actually they are, because it's the same kind of thing. But they're not under Frieza. They're under someone. Maybe
like just a bunch of Friezas.
Just a ton of Friezas. Under no Saiyans. It's actually just all Frieza.
It's just a race of Friezas.
God, I really like the episode. So people don't like it because it wasn't as gore as the comics. In the comics, they're drenched in blood, like, entirely. I can see if I can find
enough. Like, I felt like they had enough gore to get across the point of what they were trying to get across. Like, at no point, I am someone that I like that kind of stuff. And I also find that there are points where I'm like, now we're just doing it for the sake of guts. Like, if anything, I felt like some of it was a little more than everything, because they were like, all right, so
the guy holding his guts wasn't enough for everybody.
Exactly.
Apparently.
It's like, I don't get how that's oh, we're holding it, we're easing back on it. It's like, no, no, no. We got to slowly ease our way into it because we've just had a couple episodes with not much gore.
Yeah.
You got to kind of
Well,
ease
and
into it
also
a little bit
like
more.
the animation does take moments where it's still images moving. We noticed, but it's
Mhm.
fine. It did not inhibit my viewing experience. I cannot expect this to be this AAA animated American feature film level animation or your standard Japanese anime. I don't expect it to be that. So it was fine for what it is. I'll tell you one thing, it's leaps and bounds better than season 1 across the board animation wise. Everything is. They definitely have more money behind it. And yeah, God, he whipped that woman's jaw off.
Didn't rip it off, whipped her into his arm. That, like, those are honestly, I'm glad you actually mentioned that because those are the kind of scenes that I frankly love about this show is that it gets as weird as it is, it's creative with the gore. Anyone can punch a hole through someone's chest. Anyone
Yeah.
can do that kind of thing. But the whips them, like someone in chat put it, the fatalities. This really is like Mortal Kombat fatality style creativity with it, and it really adds to it and makes it kind of a little flavorful with its gore. I don't know. Anyway, I really enjoyed it. I'm excited to see where things go. I realized, however, there was one thing in this episode that kind of made me think back to my opinion last time of like all the different spaces versus season 1, and I think that's anyway, I feel like season 1, it was Invincible, and we were working on this tight-knit thing. And I feel like season 2, some of the things that has taken away from me is we're building more on the universe. And I feel like that's taking away from that smaller story that we were told last time. Obviously, I understand the reasoning behind it, but the fact that we are just constantly like, hey, remember the fact that we started off this entire thing with a guy who could walk through different multiverses? Well, he's not in this one at all, even though it was kind of made it seem like he was going to be the big bad behind the scenes the entire time. Nope, not him. Instead, we're going to go back to the Maulers and we're going to do the Adam and Eve. And we're going to. I feel like they are going just sometimes a little too universe buildy. I don't know if that's
That's
just
just Robert
me.
Kirkman's run. That's how it is. He builds a world. It's a lot of sprawling things that become more important as time progresses and incredibly important. And if you don't
Mhm.
plant the seeds this early on, you end up having a story that feels like, oh, this guy's suddenly like a god. Like this guy's suddenly this powerful. This person ended up being evil. Like this is that.
Right.
You need to be able to like live in the world. Yeah, it's like weird to take you out of Viltrum and then have Adam Eve like fighting some guy, but then you see her deal with a really big consequence of like she potentially got those two people killed because of her hubris during that fight,
Yeah.
and now she's going home to her parents, and maybe it's important for her to be home. Like maybe it's important for her to be there when Mark gets back or whatever. Like there's a lot of different things that could lead to.
Exactly. And I completely agree with that. My problem is there's so many of those
Yes.
that I'm starting to find because the first season because of that I try to remember small things that happen so that if something big happens down the road I go, that's right, I remember this happening, I
Yeah.
remember that seed.
It's a lot
But
to
I
keep
feel
up
like
with.
right now I'm like, this field has so many seeds and I don't remember which ones have been watered. I don't know what's about to grow. I don't know what I'm harvesting. Like
As the
that's
show
kind of
goes on, it only gets bigger. And then there are
okay.
like small storylines now that are going to become big storylines later. And then they're going to plant seeds for small storylines. Then they're going to become big later. It's pretty perpetual. I
Okay.
really do think this series went on longer than it needed to. It had a
Mhm.
lot. It's a lot of grief in the show, but it's still a very fun run. And how they wrap things up is great. I think in a lot of different ways. I have a lot of issue with a lot of versions or a lot of parts of it, but I like a lot of it as well. They're planting seeds. It is annoying, but the upside is that is rewatch value. And I don't know
Mhm.
about you, but I'm a heavy show rewatcher. I
With
watch a lot of new
animated
stuff.
shows, 100%, yes, I will.
Yeah. I mean, I watched seasons 1 and 2 of Young Justice probably like 10 times before the show ever got back to air. And then since the pandemic happened, I think the only season of Young Justice I've only seen once is the
Outsiders.
last season of it. And it's
Oh.
only because I've been kind of heartbroken at the idea of we're not getting another one.
Mhm.
But I'm tempted to rewatch it because I love animated shows. I bring up Young Justice because I think Invincible is like what Young Justice was almost like towards the end there, because it got a lot more gore, it got a lot more violent, but with more recognizable characters that made it easier for us to keep up with them. Because I know what Nightwing looks like. I don't need to be, like whatever.
Right.
I know the relevance of this villain, that villain, whatever. Some people in our comments are shitting on Young Justice. I won't put up with that. Whatever. You guys have, everyone's entitled to their own opinion. I love that show. There are things that I do different, but I still love that show. I love Invincible in the same vein. And both shows hold strong for one thing: voice cast. Voice cast. Oh my God. The star power of this voice cast. Cecil is freaking, is what's his name? It's Walter Goggins, right? And then Donald is Chris Diamopoulos. Chris Diamopoulos is Mickey Mouse. Yes.
That's
and
amazing.
He didn't just voice Donald, he voiced one of the Viltrumites in this episode. Also voiced the Viltrumite. Amazon does everything really poorly as far as streaming is concerned. One thing is you can tap on the screen while you're watching, or pause the screen while you're watching, and you'll see what actors are in it and trivia about it. Couldn't recommend that more for
Such
this
a cool
show
feature.
because, oh my God, the voice actors are so cool. But that's Invincible. And this is, and guys, if you didn't know, this is the season finale-ish. It's the end of the season break. Mid-season finale. We will not get more Invincible for the rest of the year. Don't know when it comes back.
That sucks.
Big, huge bummer. Bad idea, I think.
Yeah.
Poor idea. But it is what it is. We got to let these animators breathe. We got to let people work at their own pace. Fine. Finish the show before you release it.
As long as it doesn't take too long, and I'm going to be relying on you to tell me when it's back, because I didn't even know that this started back up. Except
I'll be
for the
relying
fact
on
that you were
Twitter.
like, "Hey, we're going to be doing Invincible, right?" I'm like, "We are now," because you mentioned it. So, but anyway, I think that's anything else?
Yeah. No, that's it.
about the
That's it.
episode? No. Okay.
Adam Eve is fine, bro. That's all I had to say. I think
will
Adam Eve is so fine.
There was one thing I loved, and that was the fact that they did the pause that they always do, and that they always just kind of move on from in every other episode. That this one they did it with the sun, and it reveals, is it what the pause Invisible? What the fuck? It's just like,
yes,
I love it. It was perfect. Anyway,
perfection.
thank you guys so much for listening and watching. He's Hassan Kader. Go check him out on YouTube. I'm Dan. Please be sure to check out our sponsors that I didn't mention at the start. Gamersupps. Use code COMICS. thishotsauce is.com. YouTube memberships, Patreons, Comic Store, and all of that good stuff. We really appreciate all of you. Thank you, and we will see you next time.